So I finally went to my first BCS of the 24-25 season in Duluth, Georgia. I've never vlogged before or really watched a lot of vlogs, to be honest, so I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm gonna try my best. I figured you guys wouldn't really care about me touring the city too much or anything too personal, so most of the footage I have here is just of the event and information on my rounds. Again, going into this, I didn't really know how vlogging works per se. The only ones I really watched are, for example, one from my buddy Eclipse Ed, who I finally met on this trip. You can check out his vlog in the description down below, and there's actually an interview with me in it coming up in his channel pretty soon. There's also going to be a vlog from Outer Orange, both from the same trip that you'll see in the description down below. Please go ahead and check her out. Outer Orange is an amazing YouTuber, and I had the courtesy of finally, I guess, spending some time with her, because we've known each other for a good long while, but you know, we've kind of only really seen each other in passing or online. Speaking of which, the last time I actually managed to see Outer Orange was in BCS Duluth last year. I had a really great time and even managed to go to the famous aquarium that's in the city. That's, you know, if you're ever in the area, or I guess just in Atlanta at all, I think it is, go ahead and check it out. Here's, you know, some pictures in the background and whatnot. I really like the area where the actual convention is, because there's like 5 or 6 hotels in the area, and the convention center is like a walk away, even though I think we ended up driving every single time we went to it. So it just kind of felt really cool, because it just felt like there was like a community of card fighters all bubbled around in the same area, so it kind of just felt like, you know, a neighborhood of card fighters or something like that. So it was really cool. Last year when I competed, I played Omni or Grugio. This was right before set 13 was releasing, so right before the end of Wildress and before Divines actually came out. And I did pretty okay. I got 31st place actually. I think I went 6 and 3 or something like that. However, this was in the past. This is when we had top 8 cut with 9 rounds for Swiss for BCS. This year, or this season, they've changed things up completely, where in this tournament, actually for this BCS Duluth, we have top 32 topping, with prizing for top 32 as well, but in exchange we only have 7 rounds. So things are quite a lot different now. Not to mention the format is completely different since the last time I competed. My goal was ideally to get top 32 again, this time when it really mattered and there was prizing and for sure it actually kind of recorded it, because before really it was just top 4 and maybe top 8 that really mattered, but now at least top 32 actually gets some kind of spotlight. However, my second, more real goal is to get more accustomed to the Divines BTO4 format and learn how well something like a Barrel Magnus can compete in this format. I also came along with my fiance, who will be competing here as well, and is helping me take a lot of this footage that you'll be seeing. She's the person that you see on the other side of the fight videos that's always beating me up. But with that preamble out of the way, after some late 9 testing, which I'm totally not naked or anything like that, it was just cold and there was no blankets, let's talk about the actual event. I didn't have time to get any footage on Friday when I got there, or the first day of the event when it was actually sunny. So here's some footage of outside of the venue on day 2 when it was actually kind of crappy and raining the entire day. It was at the same venue as I was last year, so it was kind of nostalgic and welcoming to come back to it. And as a participation, we got this bag. And that's it. Like, it's a nice bag and all, but there's nothing inside, not even like a flyer to go watch the Divines animes or like some kind of ad or something. You did get a participation promo pack, but you only got that once the first round starts. I managed to pull the, what's her name, Georgeretta, in the FFR, which is really cool, the heal trigger for Lyrical, but I ended up giving it to my round 1 opponent. Speaking of round 1, alright, so round 1 just finished. I'm playing Blandmire today. Alright. Time to address the elephant in the room. You probably already noticed it from the thumbnail. I've tried really hard throughout my, I guess, Vanguard career, YouTube career to be known as the Barrel Magus guy within the community, and come DZBTO4, Bushido finally decided to give him a brand new form with Providence Disorder Barrel Magnus. And I'm totally not playing him today at all. Instead, I'm playing Blandmire, a very strong deck in the format thanks to the release of Veldrock, and of course its very powerful divine skill. The question remains, why am I not playing Barrel? Well, I haven't really found a list that I like with him just yet, or at least one that I feel like I could confidently attempt to win or even do well at a BCS. So that's why I say my real goal here is to actually learn the format and see if I were to come with a Barrel Magus deck, how could I possibly win the next time around? But yeah, anyways, for round 1.
My first round was against Kyrie. It was kind of rough. First turn, they played Aura behind Vanguard, and I tried to guard for 1 to pass. They checked the crit, so I instantly went to 2. On my turn, I was able to go play out the Falcratia and the Rockagore, call off the starter, and I managed to check a front, so I managed to push them to 2. They got an attack. But then on their next grade 2 turn, they didn't play anything. They just rode, got the grade 3 dragon, and then they swung in. I dropped a crit for an OT to pass. They checked the yellow OT on me, cleared my whole board, which really set me back a lot. And also my first 2 damages were the combination of the order guy and the order and the guy that gets the order, so I didn't have access to the order package. So going into my turn 3, I didn't really have a lot. I didn't really get a lot from the Vacant Fang or from the Zomug, so my hand wasn't the best, so I didn't really push too much damage. I managed to push them to 3 damage. I didn't check anything crazy either, so then they went into their grade 3 turn, they rode into Kyrie, they did the typical Kyrie play with Eureka, Penelope, Halep, and the Dragon. Pushed me to 4, I think it was. I was barely able to guard. I had 1 card left in hand, which was the Moog. Had no Persona Rise. I discarded Persona Rise for my grade 3 turn, so I went into my grade 4 turn. I barely had a board. I just had a Rockagore that I played and a Zomug. So I swung in. I didn't use a Divine Skill because I figured maybe I can try and farm up a little bit of hand, so I used all of my Counterblasts for the Zomugs to try and draw. I managed to get Elementaria. But my drive checks were ass, so that didn't help. And they also ended up having 2 PGs, so I thought maybe if I Divine Skilled I could have won that turn. But ultimately, it went to their turn. I one-guarded the Vanguard, Kyrie, with a front trigger, and then they checked the heal on the last drive check, which broke through. I didn't heal out, so that was the game. I did manage to ask them afterwards if I Divine Skilled that turn, if I would have won. They said no, they had enough to guard anyway, so it was rough. I'm pretty sure the ulti set me back a lot, and then instantly going to 2 and losing my order package set me back a lot.
Losing round 1 is really rough because it makes it really difficult to actually be able to top at this point. You want to lose as late as possible, if at all. But in any case, on to round 2.
Round 2 just finished. I fought into Alden, Divine Alden. It was pretty standard. I ended up getting the win. Turn 1, they were able to get the Saragon. And then turn 2, I was able to set up with the Schemer and then go into Rockagore to pull out the Schemer. I think they crit me. Yeah, they crit me on turn 1, so I was able to have the Counterblast to do all of that. So I was able to get everything set up. On their turn 2, I was able to basically guard the attack. They tried to take out the Veldrock, that's his name. They tried to take him out and guarded the attack. Then went into Blandmire, had a really good turn because I had my Zomugs and I had the Veldrock to be able to boost. So I was able to push them to 3. On their turn, they went into the Divine Skill, they called out Tetrafault, and they had the big guy with the spear, I'm forgetting his name right now, so they had that on board as well, and they were able to call out with the Razanel to call it over it and call it the Razanel again and swing in, but I was able to stay at like 4 damage because I needed the counterblast. The following turn I was able to call another Roller Rock, call out an Alchemist from Soul, so I basically had the perfect board, and then I Divine Skilled, so it's just complete overkill. Round 3 just ended. I lost, fought against Shoujo Doji. It was kind of a weird match. I had most of my pieces early on, but then couldn't really guard early as well, so I ended up going 2-5 by turn 2. On my first grade 3 turn, I was able to stabilize. I was able to get the Velda Rocks. I was able to get some Moogs to draw into some defensive pieces to guard for the next turn. And I also managed to hit the Angel Ladder, which I had from the start of the game before I even knew they flipped Shoujo, which was really good. So I managed to stabilize. I also checked the heal on my drive took, so I was at 4. They did not take any damage. They took, I think, just 1 damage that turn. So, because obviously, seeing the Blandmire, they want to be on low damage to take the Divine Skill. So they didn't really have a lot to work with on their next turn. They just went into Izao, got a card from the top 5, and then just had a relatively slow turn there. I believe I was able to guard everything and still have 2 face-up counterblasts. I ended up losing, I think, a Zamoog from hand, because I still have to lose a card from hand. So I went into my turn, I was able to Velda Rock. I soul charged a Falcracia. I had Falcracia and Zamoog, so they actually went more defensive route instead of trying to end me that turn. They swung into my rears, so I was able to get them both back. I ended up having a Volderock in front with the Schemer, and then I had another column with Volderock again, and then there's a Mook, so I was basically perfectly set up. And I went to my Divine Skill, swung in. They actually no-guarded. They were at 2 damage. I checked 2 crits, so with the Vanguard's crit, the Divine Skill crit, and the 2 crits, that would have been 4 damage. That would have been the game. But they ended up checking on their first damage, the Overtrigger, and then on their 4th damage, they checked the heal, which was really unfortunate. And, you know, since it was the Overtrigger, I couldn't do anything for the rest of the turn, even though I had my giant Volderocks that were swinging both for like 50, no PGs. Zamoog had a crit, but didn't end up mattering. They went to their turn, and I just didn't have enough. I had, I think, I had Elementar and a couple of triggers in hand, but I had to no-guard the... they still had the Vanguard Squin, and they still had the... they were attacking with the, what's his dumb name? Unprecedented, but I couldn't guard the Vanguard and then the other Unprecedented and then the other Sukudachi that was coming out, so I just took the 6 damage. It was a crit, did not heal, so that was really rough. It was a really roller coaster of emotions. I was thinking, oh man, it's so over. Then after my turn 3, we're so back, and then after that, you know, after the turn 3, it's still, oh, it's going good. Then I checked 4 crits into my Divine Skill. It's like, oh man, so good. And then they checked OT, and then it's just all around. So.
Losing twice in the first 3 rounds basically means at this point that my chances of topping in top 32 are completely, almost non-existent, but still there's a small chance, so we're going to keep on going.
It's the end of round 4, went up against Prism's Labrador. It was a pretty easy matchup, unfortunately. I was able to... They were able to Angel Ladder on the first turn, so I couldn't remove anything. Their attacks weren't anything too crazy. They went first, but I went second. I was able to get my Schemers and my Orders and my Velderoks all set up. When it came to the Divine Skill, on my second grade 3 turn, I Persona Rolled. Finally, I haven't seen Persona Ride like all game, and I haven't checked OT all game, but I finally got Persona Ride. I swung in with Divine Skill. They took it. I checked a crit. They were at 3, so they took 3 damage, but then again, they hit the OT, so they were fine, and I had to pass turn. They did not have the Persona Ride, so they lost all their abilities thanks to the Divine Skill, so they just, you know, did a vanilla turn. I was able to guard everything really easily. I was able to Persona Ride again and just swing in, and they took the first attack because they just had nothing else, unfortunately. So currently 2-2. And in round 5, it's going to be 7 rounds of Twist today, so there's 2 rounds left. Managed to get the win again, thankfully, so I'm currently 3-2. It was against another Destin Olden this time. Like I had been saying, I hadn't seen Persona Rides or OTs so far the whole game, or the whole tournament. Managed to see both this time around, except it was a defensive. We both checked defensive OTs. The game was kind of scary at first because I didn't have insane pieces. I managed to get my orders and everything set up, but eventually I managed to get the ideal board with the Volderoks, the Falcracia, and Zamoog. I went into the Divine Skill. This time they didn't heal out of it. I did check 2 crits, so they took 4 damage, but they were only at 1, so they went to 5, and they were able to guard the rest of the attacks. They did have the Persona Ride after that, so they Persona Rode. Their turn wasn't that crazy. There was a moment where I had a PG in hand and some shield. I was going to do a 1 to pass, or a 2 to pass, I think it was, but I decided to PG. They ended up checking a crit, but thankfully I was able to guard the rest of the attacks, go to 5, and then end the game on a Persona Ride turn with the Blandmire that was at like 80 something. So almost went to time. It's the first game where we almost went to time, but thankfully it didn't happen that way. So maybe I have to try and play a little bit faster, even though relatively the deck has been pretty fast. So just hoping I win the next 2, maybe top. So it's the end of round 6. Went into the mirror, unfortunately, with Blandmire. Pretty interesting game. Once again, I Divine Skilled. My opponent hit the OT, but I actually hit the OT on my Divine Skill finally, so I actually hit one. But it was a pretty interesting game because of the way the decks interact with each other. Obviously, they bind units face down, which then increases the other player's count of units face down, which makes their opponents, their Vanguard stronger in the end. So it was pretty interesting in that regard. I didn't see any of my PGs aside from, I believe, in Elementaria, and we just kind of had to play it smart. I tried to go first with my Divine Skill. My opponent had the chance to use their Divine Skill first because they went first, but they decided not to. And that ended up winning the game for them for the most part. I don't think it really would have mattered, to be honest. But then I went, my first turn that I was able to Divine Skill. Technically, I could have tried to play some more cards out, knowing that my cards would get bound and then increase to possibly get the Divine Skill sooner. But that's when I hit the OT on my Divine Skill turn, which unfortunately they were able to guard it thanks to them hitting their own OT. But the game kind of, dragged down, and we were just playing somewhat vanilla Vanguard at that point to an extent, doing the skills that we could. But in the end, I just guarded the Vanguard. I was at 2 damage for like the entire game. I guarded the Vanguard with like 80 something, but they broke through with a front end crit, pushed me to 4, and then the Zamud had the crits as well. So that just pushed me all the way to the end, unfortunately. So at the end of it, I'm 3-3. Any chance I have of top 32 is completely over unless the top 70 players get some kind of diarrhea or something. It is done. But I'll see if I play the next round, maybe try to at least break even.
So I did manage to break even. I went 4-3 and placed 151st, I think it was, in the event. However, this was only because my final opponent did not show up, so I have no, match to go over because there just was not a match. After the Blandmire mirror, I was pretty deflated going on into the next day. So I guess maybe it's a good thing that I didn't have to actually fight a round 7 or anything after that, because I don't know if I would have been able to. But it might have just been the fact that I ended up losing, minus maybe my mental or card fighter stamina might not be as great, but just the fact that I lost at that point to the mirror so decisively. It was kind of just deflating. It was just yeah, there's it's the mirror. You can't really complain about that, and we even both hit OT at the same time, so it just kind of is what it was at that point. I didn't actually play in the main events on day 2. I was considering playing Shadowverse, but I didn't have time to get a deck for Shadowverse way prior to the event. I instead ended up playing some of the side events. So there was a standard side event where you basically have to win 3 times in a row. It's like some sort of simul elimination tournament. I did not get past the first round either time. Round 1, I got sacked with OT, turn 2 Dragon Empire OT, and then crit on turn 1. And then the second time I tried it, I was playing Coral this time around. I ended up playing really well, but it was Blandmire, and I think they checked OT crit or something like that. So I went from 2 damage to 4 instantly or something like that as well. So that did not go so well. But that has been my BCS Duluth journey. It was a really fun experience. The card fighting aspect to it didn't go so well. Personally, I feel like maybe I could have played better. Especially maybe even day 2 was hoping to have a lot more fun, but I did not seem to like really get anything going that day to try and redeem myself. We're gonna take all this experience and go into BCS Philly and see what we can do there. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time, take care of yourselves and each other, play Vanguard, and have yourselves a damn